July Design Advisory Panel. This is 7340 Wisconsin Avenue. The format for presentation for today's presentation will be presentation by the applicant, and then we'll turn it over to the panel for discussion. We do not have any members of the public signed up for today. We do have George, Rod, Brian, and Damon on. Xiao Joy is not here today, but she did send me comments. I will read them out later. And so 7340 Wisconsin was just at the panel in May to give a brief overview of the changes that have been made since sketch plan approval. And so now they are seeking a sketch plan amendment and in with site plan. So today's presentation is more site plan focused elements that's contained in their submission. And they had also provided an additional memo that responds to comments that the panel did have back in May. And that was included in the submission that was sent out last week. And so with that, I will go ahead and turn it over to Pat to get started.
Thank you, Grace. Pat Harris with Lurch Shirley & Brewer here on behalf of the applicant, Greystar Development Services. And with me from Greystar, John Beinart, and then his colleague Niels is going to join momentarily, or he's on as well. And then we have our architect, Andy Zukowski from SK&I, and Mike Goodman, our engineer. And Grace's intro was so comprehensive that I really don't need to say anything else. I will just turn it over to Andy, who will review with the committee the where we are now in terms of our site plan submission.
Okay. Thanks, Pat. Some of you all can hear me. I'm Andy Chakowski with SK&I. Our team is here as well. Marius Radulescu, Yabu, Valerie. We have a wonderful team working on the project, and we're very excited again to present it to you all. If everyone can see my screen, I think everyone's well aware where we are. We're at the heart of Bethesda on Wisconsin and Montgomery. One of the key sites is the long abandoned Exxon station at the heart of downtown Bethesda. We have the site photos. It's obviously been chain linked for a decade, almost a decade now, and ready for redevelopment. So we're very excited. Previously this was a had an approved sketch plan by a previous ownership group. Just to remind everyone of that. This one, the north is page north. Wisconsin's on the right. There was a big drop-off porte cochere on Hamden Lane that we have sort of abandoned. We've removed that. I just want to remind everyone of that. The loading and garage entrance are still located off of Hamden. Just to remind everyone of the lay of the land. Hamden's relatively flat. It starts sloping down as it goes to the west. Wisconsin here is actually relatively flat, only maybe a foot or so grade change. Montgomery Lane, however, does go downhill quite quickly from Wisconsin. It goes downhill to the west. You do see here the bike lane that's being introduced. The curb is being reconfigured. Currently, there's a sort of a turn lane that's going to be abandoned. The bike lane will be introduced, and then this corner will be completely reconfigured through the process. This is sort of the approved sketch plan that was previously approved. And then just to remind everyone, I guess, back in May, we did come in and we essentially wanted to have sort of a sketch plan amendment. We discussed with you all sort of how we reformed this mass with our new approach with the new client. Just sort of the big takeaways of that. I don't really need to read through all the goals. These are all goals stated in the Bethesda plan and how we're promoting, strengthening the heart of the Wisconsin corridor, promoting housing, reducing vehicle trips, et cetera, et cetera. But kind of going back to this figure, this composite roof plan of the project, what we essentially did was the idea was to take this mass and resculpt the tower and give it a different identity to really, with the change of program, it was a senior use. Now it's, market rate multifamily. And essentially the big idea was to essentially pull the corners towards the perimeter of the building and then push the center of the three streets in. And it really created sort of this pinwheel shape plan that we then extruded up and then pulled the corners of the tower towards the sky. And that sort of simple diagram really creates a dynamic shape to the project. And I'll just quickly walk around the building. So we came in with a sketch plan. We came in with the massing and showed you the massing changes last time. And now we're showing you more of the architecture, more of the detail, more of the, we've been developing this over the last couple months. And we're really excited to kind of bring this to you all. So again, the big idea of pushing in the center of the buildings and then punctuating those with balconies. Since it is a multifamily building, there'll be a lot of outdoor life, a lot of balconies, and also the corner expressions are now being expressed with balconies as well. But you can see essentially, following the design guidelines with the 6-story base, having that continuous, street wall that will, tie all of Bethesda together with all the adjacent properties, and then extruding that tower up to the 25 floors towards the sky with those inflections in the centerpieces. Here's another view. This view, actually, we did update this. I do apologize. We had sort of an older version. I know that one of the comments was to compare it or see the 71, 26 building down the street in context, which we were also developing that. But these towers, that's at 225 at the corner, and then the buildings do step up. I believe the Elm is at 290, the Metro Tower's at 250, and we're at 250 as well. But you can see these buildings sort of in the row of the Wisconsin Avenue. I guess maybe, I don't know if we want to talk about the similarities or differences between the two properties at this point, but I think this project will be a lot more glassier. There's a lot more frames. The larger, we do have large windows on the corner of the 71 property, but this property at 73 will have much more glass all the way around the property. And in terms of materiality, the idea is, we created these 4-story window frames. So there's essentially 4 sets of 4 as you go up the tower. And I believe, one of the comments was the tower top and how that window wall was expressed. I think we originally had some additional lines in here. And we thought that, as we developed it, the proportions of the 4-story frame reading were very strong, and we essentially let the corners sort of the top be an extension of the 4-story reading. And so we eliminated some of those. We integrated the sort of the typical slab edge covers, and we placed those sort of at the natural locations. So and allowing that 4-story reading to extend up and grab the tower top. And then in terms of the base would be more of a solid reading, and we'll have more details as we go through the project. But the idea that we're looking at more solid wall piers that will run down and land on the sidewalk, and accentuate the retail base and the lobby base. If you remember, we're putting the lobby on the north side of the property on Montgomery, and then Hamden will have the retail wrapping, and the retail will sort of be in line with the Metro Tower and the current Elm retail. But again, this is a view on the Wisconsin Avenue side looking up, and you see the stronger, the more dominant tower is on the northeast corner, where we will be locating a lot of our mechanical equipment behind that top penthouse. We have a club room on that upper level, and then we have our pool and rooftop observation decks on the south side of the property, on the Hamden side. Kind of spinning around the property, this is now the Hamden corner. Again, it's the same reading, pushing in the middle, letting the corners come down, and then tugging the corner tops to really create the sculptural identity. On the Hamden side, you'll have the loading dock and the garage entrances, and they'll be aligned with, I believe, the Western property has some of their services along that side as well. This is a view sort of coming down on Hamden, seeing the back of the building. I think this is one of the concerns, or one of the questions, was how this property addressed the adjacent property. In terms of, we're really following the design guidelines in terms of the 6-story base and the 22.5 foot tower separation setback that sets the tower plane. But we do have, we will have some, on this side particularly, I believe we have some blank wall that we'll maybe need to figure out and address. If right now we're just showing the same material read going back there. And there is a courtyard back there that will daylight all the units that face that small courtyard. On the Hampden side, this is on the north side, we don't have that issue of sort of that exposure where we do have a party wall condition. The adjacent tower, as far as we know, has a party wall along this side, and they do leave a slight gap on the south side, on the Hampden side. But this one we do meet. They seem to have a little bit taller tower base, but I'm not quite sure the reasons for that. But they seem to be a little bit taller than us on this side. But again, you can see that reading of the base kind of marching along, going down the hill on Montgomery. And then we have a couple of bird's eye views. You can see I think this is where you really start understanding the towers, the inflection points, pushing the tower, the midpoints in. Again, we have a lot of balconies on the building, a lot of great opportunities for the residential character to really express itself. Again, you can see the 22.5 foot tower separation. I believe the other tower has it as well. So there'll be the 45-foot gap between the towers.
Andy?
Yes.
This is Paul. Does the base align basically with the same base height as the building to the south?
The building to, I believe, I mean, we're probably within a story. I can't remember. I think the Metro Tower has about a 5, maybe 6-story base. We're definitely at 6 stories. I believe theirs varies. It has, it's a deco expression, so it has, I think it goes between 4 and 6 stories.
Sorry to interrupt.
No, that's fine. Yeah, but we're conforming with the design guidelines in terms of the overall height. So I'll get into that in a minute too. But this is another bird's eye. I think this helps you understand how the tower top works. We do have all of our club room amenity space on the northeast corner. We have a viewing observation deck on the southeast corner. Then we have our pool on the southwest corner. And then we're, covering as much as we possibly can with green roof, green area, and vegetated roof. Another view. Again, you can see the tower separation. This is the 22.5 foot setback. You can start seeing sort of the well that occurs. There are only 5 stories of residential units that look into this window well. But I think if we'll have green roofs, the adjacent property will likely have green roofs, so that'll be actually quite pleasant experience for those units in there. But I think, in terms of the overall height, all these towers are really kind of coming together. The Avocet Tower with its large roof deck, the Metro Tower with its articulated top. I think this is a different but yet unique expression that kind of plays well with all of the neighbors. Let's see. So how did we kind of comply to the design guidelines? We have essentially 2 types of frontages. Wisconsin Avenue is the urban boulevard. Montgomery Lane, Hampden Lane are both the downtown mixed use. They have very similar sort of building placements, other than Wisconsin has sort of the widest placement with the 25 to 30 feet from the curb. Montgomery and Hampden are at 15 to 20. So we're providing 25 on Wisconsin and the 15 on Hampden and Montgomery. So just kind of quickly walking through how we place the building, located the heights. This really has all the numbers, how we're meeting the planning zone, the pedestrian zone, the frontage zone within that 25 feet. The base is 6 stories, or about 66 feet up. We're generally at the midpoint, we're about 12-foot setback. And I'll show that later in the later diagram. And then the building extends up 250 feet. Then we have the penthouse and mechanical screen, and how that sort of all relates to the guidelines. And so just kind of walk around the building. And this is the Montgomery Lane side, where we do have the 15-foot setback. The same heights apply here, the 22.5 tower separation. And I think this is where you really start to see the bike lane, and how this corner gets a lot more pedestrian sidewalk zone at this corner with the changing curbs. And then the Hamden Lane again is 15 feet with the 6-foot tree pit, 8-foot pedestrian zone, and then 1-foot building zone. Going back to this one though, I believe where all the action will occur on Montgomery. I'm sorry, on Wisconsin. We do have a lot. We have a fair amount of cafe frontage zone here for the retail to spill out into the street and have that wonderful kind of urban experience. Going back to just sort of the servicing of the building, this is the ground floor diagram below. We do show the existing, the Exxon, they do have 3 curb cuts, 3 massive curb cuts. We'll be removing all of those, filling them in with, as best we can with street trees, the bike lane on the north, street trees on Wisconsin. And then we do have our service lane and our garage on Hamden. And they're, we're probably as well located as we possibly can get them to be. The lobby, the leasing will be on the north side, the retail will be on the south side. We'll have some, our necessary functions, fire control room, fire pump room. We'll have those sort of discreetly, sort of in between the spaces. But again, going back to the cafe zone, here we are inflecting the corner here at the retail, so to create a little bit more room for the outdoor space. But I think this sort of southeast corner will be a prime outdoor cafe seating, and that'll be in line with the Metro Tower and the Tate and the Purple Line station to the south. And this is also what's relatively flat, and just kind of comparing that to what was before, where we had the large the curb cut, etc. So going back to the green cover, we're working as best we can to get to the 35%. This site is, it's challenging in the sense that it's just a smaller site plan. I think when you add everything in, when you add in the street trees, I don't know if land design is on, if Tate is on, but we're working as best we can to meet the 35%. I think we're north of 30, but we may be a little shy of 35 in the end. We'll probably be over 35 if you can count all the canopy and the street trees and all the greening that we'll be doing to the site, but actually within the property lines itself, we're going to be sort of between the 30 and 35%, I believe. But we're covering as much as we possibly can with green roof, and we're putting the deep stuff where it's best fitted over the garage ramp, et cetera, where we can, hang it down into the spaces. Kind of getting back to the base street activation. Again, this is essentially a 3-sided building with three frontages, and we're putting as much storefront glass entrances as we possibly can. And I think, in terms of materiality right now, while the upper tower and sort of the corners are going to be a window wall, we're looking at a very kind of, we think is a pretty sophisticated palette. It's almost like a contemporary deco, if you will, with light metal panel accented with like metallic, whether it's a brass or a copper feel, a shiny metallic, to really give it some nice, wonderful texture, sort of a classic palette in sort of a contemporary language. But you can see that expression with these frames, the white panels in the metal, and then the base. We're looking at hard surfaces. We're looking at We're looking at terracotta. It could be like a really wonderful white brick, but I think we're somewhere in that vein right now of the hard surfaces, these white piers coming down in a terracotta or a white masonry. And then, obviously we'll have the balconies and all of the activation that's sort of prescribed in the base activation guidelines. Here's another view, sort of, obviously this is sort of at the core of the recommended retail nodes. And in terms of activation retail, we see that activation on the southeast corner, and we'll have as much activation as we possibly can on the ground floor in terms of the lobby, the amenities, the leasing area, and we'll likely have the fitness center on the ground floor on Montgomery Lane. So it'll have sort of that boutique hotel kind of atmosphere that all of these sort of upscale residential buildings have. In terms of the base variation, articulation, again, we're talking about the materiality. We're talking about articulated terracotta masonry with accent panels in the bright copper, sort of the gold, brass kind of reflection, shimmer. I think one of the things that we're looking to do, you can kind of see it here, is have those panels return in to the jambs of all the piers. So as you walk down the building, as you walk along the sidewalk, you get that speckle, that shimmer, that shine along the street that activates it. You can see it here where the face of the building on the outside is the white pier, but as you go at the oblique, it really changes colors, and it really creates a lot of dynamic interplay for the pedestrian and vehicles driving by. And then in terms of the geometry, going up to 6 stories, we're looking at a 2-story reed at the base, and then a 4-story sort of top on top of that. And I think that's essentially that 4-story reading goes all the way up through the tower, but it's it starts here at the base, and it has this crown of a detailed metal panel that caps the base of the building. In terms of the corner treatment, again, the pulling of the corners out and then breaking those corners, it really is the cracking of the corners, letting that balcony kind of slip down and slide all the way down through the building, and then opening up at the corner. The vestibule on this one, the northeast corner is the lobby. On the southeast corner will be sort of the prime retail space. So letting those corners sort of crack and pull back and expand is really the gesture of the building at the corners. In terms of the setback, the tower setback, we talked about the 22.5 feet, but this diagram on the bottom, I think, is the particular one that we're, just to show that we're in compliance with the sector plan in terms of the recommended tower setback is 10 feet, and how we're pushing in beyond that in the center points of the building, accentuated by the balconies, but then pulling the corners out to really create that pinwheel effect. And I think when you look at what was approved previously, this was sort of a different weighted kind of building, where the northeast corner and sort of the south end were pulled out, and the setback was not applied. And we sort of redistributed that FAR, if you will, sort of towards the corners where it's really meaningful, where it's exciting, where it really creates interest for the units, and creates these really wonderful balcony opportunities for the residents. In terms of the tower step back from the massing standpoint, I think this really helps, show how we're in compliance with the overall intentions of the design guidelines and the Bethesda plan, and letting those, letting a strong 6-story base be read with those inflection points, pushing the tower in, and then extruding upwards towards the sky, and letting it cascade up. And I think, again, going back to the overall style, thinking of it as sort of this, we do have sort of a more traditional deco building to the south of us, and how this is sort of like a modern interpretation of the deco, letting the towers fly up, letting the fingers fly up, crafting the tower top in a slightly different way, more contemporary way, with the sort of the vernacular of the day, with these window wall systems that are common, or becoming more common, but then using it in a unique and elegant way with these frames and these creating these 4-story frames, and then accenting the colors using this white and this the bright, the copper, the patina on the fins on the frames, and letting that really that 4-story frame expression really read. And going back, I guess, again, just going through the bird safe design, we're seeing that we know this has been a comment more frequently. How do we interact with the bird safe design? And I think a lot of it here is having the layers, having the different planes, creating those shadow play, creating depth in the facade. So, and what we've been hearing is that a lot of this occurs sort of at the 6 stories, 7 stories below. And I think all the things that are helping us here are the balconies, the vertical fit, the vertical piers, having the depth, having the reflective surfaces of the metal accent panels, having all these things sort of interplay with each other to create that sort of the noisy facade that the birds read as a distraction. That's not just a sheet of glass that they want to fly through, but there's a lot of interference on the wall and a lot of depth that helps deter them from flying into the building. And then I think we just, we've had some of our the inspirations that we've been looking at, some of the colors, the palettes. I think we were really looking at the sort of the lighter masonry, the lighter metals, accented with the patinaed metal, whether it's a true copper, like a pre patinaed copper, or sort of a goldish hued. Again, just thinking of the classic buildings, but in a sort of a modern interpretation of it. And then how that frame, that reading, again, these are the sort of the frames that we're looking to get, and having those read in a 4-story manner, extending those up, using this window wall system. It's a very fast, efficient way to erect these buildings and clad the buildings, but again, adding some detail, adding texture, adding the color to it to really give it elegance, form, and interest. So I think that's the end of my spiel. Hope there's plenty of time to go through questions, comments.
Thanks, Andy. That concluded our presentation.
Mm-hmm. And we have the plans for backup and comments and questions.
Well, I'd just like to start off by saying that I really am very happy with how this building has morphed. It's become a really, really good end cap for that corner. And I love the fact that somebody actually has finally taken the base up appropriately and then bent in the facade to create something that's different from most of the other buildings and setting its own character. So, I mean, your pinwheel idea that we talked about last time has really worked, and I'm just very, very happy with it. I love the scaling of the facade of the 4-story components, and I also am enthralled with the materiality coloration that you've been talking about, which includes for today, an unusual bronze or brass component. So from my standpoint, the building has transitioned into a direction that not only sets it apart, but actually really, really adds interest to the continuum along the major streets. So very good.
Yeah, so go ahead.
Yeah, so generally I agree with George. I think the massing is very successful. As he said, it's morphed into something a bit more sophisticated than what was originally proposed for the site. I do like the fact that you have changed the material strategy from 7126. I think that's good. I like the fact that the shaft of the tower has a lot more glass in it than your other project. I think my one criticism would be, is the base compared to 7126 doesn't seem to have the development and the depth to it that it does on your other project. And it almost feels like to me, and I think you can easily overcome it. It almost feels like a facade that's covering up a parking garage instead
Yeah.
of a real base to it. And I think as you go, as I understand this is you're still a sketch plan going into site plan, that I think it's more about the development of the base and giving it more depth to it than what I see right now.
And Rod, just to clarify, so this is a joint application of the sketch plan amendment and the preliminary plan amendment and a site plan. So we're taking all three at the same time.
Oh, okay.
But nonetheless, there's obviously time to make adjustments.
Yeah, and I think quite frankly, my criticism is really more about refinement than overall redesign. I think it just needs more refinement to it.
Yeah, you're absolutely right. It does appear to be a garage cover-up to a certain degree.
Right.
And
And I
real-
realize it isn't, but it looks that way.
maybe more balconies?
I don't know whether it's balconies or just greater depth to it. I encourage you. You guys obviously you're doing the project 2 blocks south, but it's just, I was actually really impressed with the base for the project 2 blocks south and the depth that it has.
Yeah, I mean, we added bays, and there were bays, projected bays on that one that helped that depth, and there were balconies that, in concert with the bays that gave it the shadow play. Okay.
Well, I love this project. I really hope that this happens, that the project actually gets built. And I think someone started off the presentation by, rightly saying that this site's been fenced off for a decade. And I think all of us have seen multiple proposals for the project over the years. I love this proposal. I really hope to see it happen.
Yeah. Yeah, I think, the big difference between, I do have the other presentation, but for the 7126, but that one, these are different clients, different programs, different sort of goals. And I think, that client wanted that building to be more of a masonry building. So we ended up with more sort of solid wall, more punches. This one is, as you can notice, it is more glassy. There is more window wall, larger window frames throughout the entire project. So I think those differences will really set these two buildings apart.
Before my internet went down, I was about to say that I applaud the development of the project. The sophistication of the tower piece and the base, to me, are really quite nice. I hope as you think about refining the base that you keep constant the notion of the white elements, whatever the might be. They seem to be appropriately beefier than the elements in the tower portion, the similar elements in the tower portion, and they provide a wonderful cadence, I think, to this kind of street level experience of the building. So I would hate to see that go away. What I like about the base tower relationship is that they are of the same language, and they are sort of transformations of amounts of solid versus void. And so if particularly with that cadence of the vertical white elements, if that could somehow be preserved in whatever refinements might tend to happen down the line.
Mm-hmm.
Also, I think there is a language here that we didn't see last time of how you're turning corners that's consistent. And it makes it really be all of one whole project, as opposed to before there was a sort of, we've got a corner now, we've got this condition, we're going to turn it this way and turn it the next way on the next corner. It really seems to be a very consistent, there's a language developing in the entire project that's unique to the project that I think is of value. So here.
Mm-hmm.
Agreed.
Yeah. No, we appreciate that comment. Actually, I think we were, it's something that we've been consciously working towards. the entire design team of unifying the base with the tower, but then also differentiating the base in a subtle way but meaningful way, with a more of a solid, we wanted more texture at the base. We wanted more interest. We wanted something that you could touch. I mean, there's a wonderful quality to the tower and the glassiness of the tower, but we wanted something that was similar and that tied that base to the ground and the pedestrian experience. So we appreciate.
One of the things that I sort of look at here is perhaps, and taking into consideration the other comments, I think that perhaps part of the detail that might help this base is that I like the vertical nature of it all, of the tower as well as the base, but I wonder if at the base, the 6-story base, you almost express the horizontals, the horizontal mullions a little bit more, so that there's some depth to them, so that I mean, there's still a layering of the white over the horizontal and the I guess the copper color or the brass color over the horizontal. But I'm wondering if maybe the windows are just set back a little bit more, so that there's a little bit more expression of the horizontals at the base rather than at the tower, and maybe that's something that begins to give it depth, that might help. I think some of your precedent images actually showed that type of frame, type of detail that perhaps could be, or even the next page, if you go to the next sheet, there you see the one on the bottom right, and how there's a little bit of the depth to the horizontal as well as the vertical, and perhaps something like that can be incorporated a little bit more into that base that might give it a little bit more of a delineation and a little difference from the upper tower portion.
Yeah, I mean, to me, again, I agree with the overall comments here. I guess my comment is the base compared to the tower seems almost two-dimensional to me, and I know that's not your intent. So I think it's kind of, it's some minor manipulation within the base itself.
Yeah, no, that's fair.
I have a question based on that comment and looking at what's on the screen right now. On the corner of Wisconsin, right to the left of the corner, it looks like that element starts at the base but continues all the way up. And if there were not, but right to the right of that, the two windows. And I mean, if there's a way to sort of, and I don't know if this is the intent or not, but connect so that the base connects to the portion, the tower portion, does that sort of help get
Actually,
address your?
what
Go
I
ahead.
actually like is that the tower's coming down through the base. So
Yeah,
it's
that's what I'm saying. I think that's nice because it addresses your comment.
No, I do too. And I'm really talking about not necessarily the corner, but beyond the corner.
Okay, I guess my comment was, does the fact that it does come all the way down to the ground?
I like that, actually.
Yeah,
think
I
that's
do too. And I think that sort of counters a little bit the thought that, hey, this is a parking garage and it's two separate things, but okay.
Shelley Joy had a comment. The ground floor triangular planter on the Wisconsin facade, is the planter necessary for the green coverage? From plan view, the size of the planter seems too small to be impactful. And then some renderings have outdoor retail space along Wisconsin, but not shown in the plan. Please explain the difference. I think you did cover that in your presentation.
Yeah. Yeah, I think that we've been working through with civil, landscape, and utilities. I can just talk quickly about the ground plan, but we do need transformer volts. We're trying to keep them off of Wisconsin, so the logical place is on Montgomery for us. So we place those here. Obviously, it goes downhill a little bit along here, but and we have a little bit more room because of the curb reconfiguration. So I think, I don't know if Cade's on here, if he wants to chime in with land design. I don't see him, but we are trying to put as much green cover. This may change and grow as we kind of develop this further, but the intention is to have some sort of landscape, and it is working towards this. Is within the property, so it'll count towards the green coverage, absolutely. But again, we're proposing some outside of the property. We're not necessarily getting credit for it, but I think cumulatively we'll be over the 35%. But we're trying to get as much as we possibly can, but also leave as much pedestrian cafe zone as possible, for the retail. So it's kind of it's a balancing act. This isn't a large, a lot of the larger sites in Bethesda, we can get to the 35 pretty quickly because there is ground cover, et cetera. But these tighter sites are more of a challenge, competing interests with mechanical, et cetera. You can't put them all. Unfortunately, we can't put green right up to the edge. We do need to have some standoffs for maintenance, et cetera. But so some of those setbacks, we're putting as much green in the setbacks as we possibly can as well.
Really good.
Excellent. Well, we have a great team working on it. Marius, as you can see, and Yavo and Yoon and obviously Sami and Valerie. We have a wonderful group here working on it. So we're really excited. I get to be the vocal piece for the team, but we've got a lot of wonderful people, talented people working on it. We're really excited to get this in the ground. I know Greystar is as well. So.
And Greystar does what it says it's going to do, so that's great.
And so are all the people who live and work in Bethesda who've been staring at that abandoned gas station for the last 10 years.
Yeah. Hey everyone, John from Greystar. I just appreciate all the feedback. We're excited as well, and I agree. I think Andy's doing a great job here and his team. So appreciate the time today.
Okay, with the comments winding down, the applicant is requesting 20 design excellence points today. Based on the comments from the panel, are you ready to vote today, or would you like the applicant to respond a bit to the base requirements return for vote? How are we feeling?
I'm ready to vote.
Yeah, I'm ready to vote.
Yeah, I am as well. I just hope they will take into account the comments we've made.
Why not?
Can certainly add that as something to be addressed through the site plan review. Okay. And so they are requesting the 20 points. Is the panel comfortable with that amount?
Yes.
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 Good to go. I will get these notes together and post it shortly. Again, we get to end early, and I hope everyone enjoys the rest of their Wednesday.
Thanks.
Thank you all.
Thank you, everyone.
everybody.
Appreciate your time.
Thank you, everyone.
Bye.
Appreciate it.
Have a good August.